Thank you guys for coming. It looked like you had a lovely lunch. Did everyone enjoy it? Yeah? Am I loud? Just in my own head. You know what it is? There's a echo on my computer. All right, I'll turn it off. There we go. So I'm Ashley McIntyre. For those of you that haven't met me before, I speak once a month here. I love coming to speak to you guys. I am a certified nutrition specialist. I'm also a health coach. I work with clients, one-on-one to support their health goals. I think when a lot of people think of nutrition, they just think of weight loss, and that is not even like a fraction of what I do with clients. I work on, different medical diagnoses that you have, or if you have some abnormal labs, and we really use food as medicine to kind of support, your health goals that way. So today we're going to talk a lot about healthy eating on a budget, how to plan for the week to set you up for success. Who currently does a meal plan or plans what they're going to eat for the week? Does anyone currently do that? A few. Do some people fly by the seat of their pants and wake up and just not know what's going to happen food-wise? That's okay too. No big deal. So I find one of the biggest challenges I have when I work with clients is if we're working on a specific health diagnosis and it's like, okay, these foods are going to be really therapeutic for you. Maybe it's somebody that's really low in iron and we're working on eating iron, and when you want to increase your iron amounts, you want to eat it with vitamin C rich foods as well because it increases the absorption. So I'm giving lists of these are foods highest in iron, these are foods highest in vitamin C, we want to pair them together. But the biggest thing is translating that into a plan for the week, right? So, and it's going to be different for everybody and what works for them. If you're really tech savvy, maybe you keep it on your phone, you have a running list, and you find recipes on Pinterest that have these vitamin C and iron rich foods. If you prefer pen and paper, so I go both ways. It depends on what I'm doing. Sometimes I do need paper. Then maybe you're, printing out a list to keep in your kitchen, but it's really planning so that you can, integrate some of these foods that are going to be really therapeutic for you. So we've talked a lot in the past about foods that are supportive for Parkinson's. So this is more kind of like planning and how we can, do it hopefully in a financially responsible way. But even if you don't need that, focusing on planning for the week or the month, however far you like to go out with that. So we'll talk about, why does nutrition matter? What does an elevated plate look like? If you've been here before, you've seen that slide, but I feel like I have to share it. Planning one-on-one, can you cook out of what you have in your refrigerator and in your pantry? What are things that might be cheaper alternatives? Using leftovers or making food to eat as leftovers, making a list, can be really beneficial than just walking into Publix and being like, what do I feel like? And then where to shop, and if you have the time and the resources to go to multiple places, what should we be drinking to support our health? What can we do to stretch our dollar? And then I have some, basic smoothie bowls if you're interested, and snack ideas and dinner bowls at the end. So some bonus recipes, depending on how many questions you guys have. So why does nutrition matter? I think we've talked about this a lot of ultra-processed foods and foods that are fried foods, inflammatory foods. We really want to bring it down to the cellular level. What's happening cellularly in your body, and how is that going to support how you want to feel? So the typical American diet, looks very similar to the picture. A lot of high sugar, which can lead to high blood sugar and high glucose, which causes inflammation at a cellular level. I'm an 80-20 nutritionist, so we do not have to be perfect. I definitely eat French fries off my kids' plates. It doesn't count if it's off somebody else's plate, just so you know. But I definitely will have some of these foods every now and then. It's what are we doing the majority of the time? So what signals are we sending to ourselves the majority of the time, right? It's not what we do, one time out of the week or one time out of the month. High alcohol intake, high stress, not prioritizing sleep, all these things in the American diet and culture that are just, transmitting things to our cells. And so we want to transmit positive anti-inflammatory things. So we're going to talk a lot about that. What the American diet typically lacks, what do you guys think the American diet can typically lack? Before I just tell you. Yes, that's number one, is like vegetables. When they do a lot of these food surveys, when you look at some of these studies and they'll survey people over time, like years, and Hanes is a big one, the nurses study, they'll ask about vegetable intake and they count the piece of lettuce that is on your hamburger as a serving of vegetables. So it's not a true, it's not like a half a cup of, broccoli or cauliflower or a bowl full of leafy greens. So they can be a little skewed in that manner. So definitely vegetables. And if you translate that further, it's really fiber. The American diet lacks a lot of fiber. So the next page, for those of you that have been here before, this is what I call the elevated plate. My company's named the elevated plate. So if you are plating every single meal, which I realize and I will say is unrealistic, I don't eat that way either, but if you were, that would be like super goal, like have the half of your plate to be your non-starchy fruits and vegetables, and then the other half of your plate to have healthy fats, some like whole grains and starches like your potatoes and sweet potatoes and quinoa and rice, and then protein, of course. But if you're kind of like boiling it down to make it a little bit easier, because we all don't eat a plate like that, I call it the critical four. So can you get protein, fat, and fiber? We're not demonizing carbs. I definitely want you to eat carbs earlier in the day if you can, because then you can use those carbs as like fuel for your body and moving throughout the day. But we all eat a lot of them, so I just don't focus on it. But if we can get protein, fat, and fiber in one meal all together and all your snacks, that's going to lead to even blood sugar throughout the day. So more energy, you're not going to have these high rises and low spikes, or high spikes and low valleys that are going to cause lack of energy. And then color, because that's going to give you more fruits and vegetables, more micronutrients, more fiber. Any questions on that? Yeah.
Give an example on healthy fat.
So a healthy,
On a plate like this,
yeah.
give an example of what mean.
So it could even be like if you're having a big salad on the other side with a bunch of stuff, it could be olive oil, it could be avocado, it could be avocado oil. You could have some nuts on your salad. Yeah. Yeah, you can mix it in. Or it could just be a side of nuts, or, olive oil is the mainstay of the Mediterranean diet and is so anti-inflammatory, so I highly recommend it. But nuts are the same way, nut butters, not that you would have like a spoonful of nut butter, but wine, I agree. Why not? Why not? So kind of going back to asking earlier about who plans. I love/hate this quote, but if you fail to plan, then plan to fail. Because sometimes life doesn't always have to be so planned, but in terms of food and just always making sure we have stuff around that is healthy and that's going to, again, relay and transmit, positive and anti-inflammatory messages to our cells, we want to make sure we have a plan. So I usually recommend with clients like before Monday hits, so like on Sunday, whether you live by yourself, you live with a family member, a spouse, sit down and kind of look at your week. Like, what does the week look like? Do you have to pick grandkids up on Wednesday? Do you come to the Parkinson place for lunch on Tuesday? What meals do you need to plan for? And then, what do you really need to make sure you have on hand to make sure you're making healthy choices? I think a lot of my clients, when they make the unhealthy choices, it's when they don't have anything on hand that's healthy to choose from. So this can look, like creating an Excel spreadsheet if you feel like being fancy, or it can just be like a paper calendar and you're just writing down like, going out to dinner with my daughter on Tuesday, Wednesday I'm going to make lasagna, Thursday I'm going to make this, and it just to have some sort of plan. And then if you can go back and think like, do most of the meals that I'm planning have protein, fat, and fiber in them so that I'm having, leveled blood sugar throughout the day to kind of give me energy throughout the day, right? If you think of food as fuel, food tastes great, and we should try to make it taste great because it's something that is very enjoyable. But if you can also think of it as fuel and what that food is going to give you, you're going to get more out of it. So, out of curiosity, how much food do you guys think goes to waste every year? Like for a household, how much money do you think somebody throws away in food every year on average? It is your 31.9%. You win. I don't know what you win, but you win. So it is 31.9% of the food that is bought goes to waste. That's a little over $1,800 a household per year. So, and think about it. I mean, you plan to eat the salad, but then you end up getting takeout, and then that whole box of organic lettuce that was probably $6.99 just gets chucked because now it's wilted. So my biggest recommendation for stretching your dollar and really, planning for the week is on Sunday when you're looking at what meals you need to make, look at what you have on hand, what you need to use before it expires. So looking at expiration dates and prioritizing that food first, and what meals can you make with what you already have. And then go back to, again, is this fat, fiber, and protein that I can combine together to, transmit these healthy, anti-inflammatory benefits to my cells, right? There's actually a website, I think it's on the next page. Yeah, it's on the next page. There's a website that I love to recommend, and I keep going back. The last time I checked, it's still in functioning fully, but it's called myfridgefood.com. And it actually helps you plan meals based on the food that you have in your kitchen. So what you would do is you would go to the website, you would put in like, I have ground chicken and I have, maybe some of these beans and some of this and some of that. It will pop up recipes that then you can cook from the food that you already have, right? And even if you don't have any meat on hand, if you just have eggs or you have, beans or whatever it is, it'll come up with some recipes. Now, my caveat to this is that they're not always going to be recipes that are going to fuel us and nourish our cells the most. So you have to look at the recipe and say, does this look like it's going to fuel my cells, or is this look like it's going to be more inflammatory for my cells and is it going to give me more energy or less? So you have to kind of look at that based upon your protein, fat, and fiber. So I find this really helpful for when you've had a bunch of people over and you have a bunch of random leftovers and stuff in your kitchen to see what you can make with some random ingredients, or even after the holidays when you've had a bunch of people over. For one of the hurricanes, not this past fall, but a couple of years ago, I literally hosted like 9 adults, 3 or 4 kids, 3 cats, 2 dogs, and a bunny. So I had so much food and leftover stuff in my house, and this can be a really easy way to utilize, a bunch of the leftovers that people had brought and not throw it away and kind of reduce that food waste and using the food you already have on hand that you guys have spent money on. Does anyone else have any, recommendations for, using the food you already have on hand? Is there any websites I don't know about? No? Okay. I always like to ask because you don't know what you don't know. So this used to be, I feel like, a little more popular, and I feel like we're in a little bit of a protein craze right now as a nation. But going meatless can really save money. Does anyone do like a meatless Monday or try to plan one meatless meal, throughout the week? Yeah. 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 So what are your favorites to make on your meatless nights? Beans. Yeah. Right. And it's still very filling with the beans for sure. What about you?
Usually what I do is if I get a pasta, I'll get either a brown rice one or some other kind of, not just a regular pasta.
Yeah.
And I'll saute vegetables like zucchini and, I use olive oil and then and tomatoes and make it, I don't know, garlic. It's really
Yeah.
flavorful.
Yeah,
Over a pasta, or use, if I have sauce that I made, and I add that to it.
Mm-hmm.
without meat,
Yeah.
but
Um,
cheese.
but then
Grated
cheese.
Parmesan or Romano.
I love to do that with pesto. I'm not a big red sauce person, but I love to do that with pesto and to mix it all together. And then pesto usually stays good for a while in the fridge too. Um,
I have like a rigatoni, burrata,
ooh,
basil, garlic, and a bunch of cheese.
yeah.
It's pretty.
Well, and that's why I call it the critical four, and the last one is color. So anything that you can do to any of the pasta dishes, like there's a lot of veggies, it sounds like in her soup, but like anything you can do to add in, like if you threw in, beans aren't super colorful, so that's a bad example, but any other fruits and vegetables that you could put in that would add color are going to add micronutrients. One of my favorite things to add that's very supportive of our detoxification pathways, getting rid of toxins, is sprouts. So you can buy them at the store. If you're fancy, you can grow them. But sprouts are something that I can put on a salad or any type of pasta I'll put them on top of because they don't change the flavor. They're really kind of flavorless. There's a little bit of a texture, but that's something that you can throw on too. So a lot, yes. Yeah, it could be bean sprouts or broccoli sprouts are probably the most potent for detoxification purposes, but any types of sprouts, they tend to have really high anti-inflammatory components, more so like broccoli sprouts will have way more antioxidants in them than just regular broccoli. They look like little baby sprouts. I don't know how to, I'm not a, I grow them in my windowsill only because my sister bought me this thing. It's called Hey Mama, and they're in my windowsill, and I grow them. I actually kill everything, so the fact that I can grow them says that it's very easy. But they're really easy. They give you like this little pellet that you put in water, and a week later you have sprouts, and I just cut it off. I throw it in smoothies or on salads, or my kids will tolerate it. I usually put it in the smoothie when they're not looking, though. But Brussels sprouts are great. Yeah, those are all cruciferous veggies. So cruciferous veggies would be like Brussels sprouts, watercress, broccoli, cauliflower, all cabbage. I'm probably missing one or two. Kale and arugula. No, I don't think spinach is one, but arugula is. But they're all like considered cruciferous veggies, and those really support detoxification pathways. And really what detoxification is our body just getting rid of toxins. So whether it's we walk past somebody smoking and we inhale it, and that's a toxin. If we eat fried foods, if we're really stressed out. So toxins in our body, it's just our body gets rid of them. And it comes from the liver. Your liver has to process the toxins, and then either you sweat it out or you in your bowel movements it comes out. So sweating and having regular bowel movements is really important for detoxification processes. Thank you. Yes.
What do you think of these products like Beyond Burgers, chicken patties that are actually veggie, not real chicken?
Yeah.
Are those any good?
So I think that's part of the protein craze, is what I think it is. And unfortunately, I used to eat them. I was vegan for a hot second, like years ago. And they don't taste bad, but if you look at it, you look at a burger and it might be a little higher in saturated fat, right? Have more calories. But then if you look at the back of Beyond Burger or any of like the fake meats, they have so many inflammatory chemicals in them. It's just not beneficial for our cells and for our bodies. So it's fine to be vegan if that's something, or not eat meat, be a vegetarian. You have to be a little more mindful of protein if that's something that you choose to do. But we want to get that protein from tofu or tempeh or something more natural that's not as processed. Because I would consider like a Beyond Beef burger like an ultra processed food, unfortunately. But eggs are another great option for meatless. My quick go-to, we have no time and I'm too tired to go anywhere and get food is breakfast for dinner. So my quick and easy is always eggs with avocado toast, and I'll come up with some sort of like other side little colorful salad or something just to go with it. But so eggs are easy. If you're going meatless, like we just said, tofu, tempeh, or edamame. And if your budget does allow, I would get organic because those crops are highly sprayed with glyphosate, which is just pretty inflammatory. A good rice swap. Rice, there's nothing wrong with it, but if you're trying to get something a little more nutrient dense, quinoa can be a better option. It has higher protein, and if you make the quinoa with bone broth, you're getting even more minerals and protein into it. And then you had mentioned the pasta swap. So instead of just having pasta, if you could get like a chickpea or a lentil pasta, that's going to add even more protein and fill you up even more. And then you can always use nuts or nut butter to swap out meatless as well. So who cooks so that they can actually have leftovers to utilize? Does anyone do that? Yes. That is the key to life, right? You guys are a lot more tenured than me. I just got caught wind of this the last 18 months. But I typically will try one meal a week at minimum to make. Last night, it was my chicken enchiladas, where I will just try to double it and then freeze it. And then I have it for another week or two later. So if you can have a list of meals, if you're compiling a list of some of your favorite things to cook, have a list of meals that are good as leftovers, because not everything is good as a leftover or is good frozen and brought back to life, if you will. So when you're planning for the week ahead to do that, or to cook larger meals if you want to have it for lunch the next day. If you're home for lunch and that's an easy thing to reheat, instead of freezing it, just make it be, dinner and lunch, and then you can get, make it go a little further. Does anyone have any of their favorite things to easy recipe to share?
Potatoes, pepper, onion, sausage, sweet or mild.
Yeah.
The package is 5 links, so we only eat 1 link for dinner, so then we have it for dinner another night, and then there's one for lunch.
Perfect.
And I marinate the potatoes in olive oil,
Mm-hmm.
and the peppers, onions, and mushrooms I put in there. So it gives an added health and kick.
Yeah.
I just found out that cabbage is amazing when you put olive oil in with it. It cuts
Yes.
down the cabbage
Like
that
the
I don't like.
yeah. And if
No, me.
if you're doing like a ton of different peppers, then you're getting a lot of color in there and a lot of different micronutrients. One of my favorite things to recommend for cabbage, if you have red, I always want to call it purple cabbage because it is purple, but they call it red cabbage. But if I never use it all when I buy it if I'm making a slaw for like fish tacos or something. But if you chop the rest of it up, throw some olive oil and salt on it, and then you bake it at like 350-ish for 10 minutes. It gets really crispy, 10, 15 minutes. And it's almost good just like as a side by itself or a snack, just so you don't waste it. If you,
Don't put cabbage in with sausage, potatoes, peppers, onions.
It's separate?
I made corned beef cabbage dinner, and so I added olive oil.
yeah.
After I took the corned beef out. And it was,
See, that's
way up to my-
but that's an easy one to keep, like you're cooking once, but you're eating a couple times.
corned beef, I buy enough so we eat it 3 nights.
Yeah.
And then we have lunch.
Do you like her corned beef? Is it good?
He orders it in a restaurant, and he goes, I don't know why you do that, it's not like yours.
I do that. My husband told me to stop ordering avocado toast out because I have too many opinions on it. Because once you're used to and love your own way, I agree. So studies actually show that making a list before you go to the grocery store, kind of going back to planning and being prepared and cutting down your spending, it can cut spending by about 20%, if not more. So I don't know if anyone else does this, but my lists on my phone, you have your Apple phone lists. I share it with not my husband, and then now that my kids have iPads, they have it too, and everybody has access to it. So nobody can say, oh, you didn't get me bananas. And it's like, well, you could have put it on the list. Like, it wasn't on the list, so I didn't get it. So that's an easy thing to do because even, as yes.
The Publix app
Ooh,
makes it so easy because you can put things on the list and it'll tell you exactly what aisle
ooh.
it's located.
Based upon the store that you click, because they're
Right,
not all the
right.
same. Ah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. I love Publix. My husband builds Publixes. He's a contractor. He doesn't work for them, but he builds a lot of them. But that's I'll have to look at that app. I like that Apple one only because I can share it and then
Yeah, that makes sense.
they can everybody can add, but I'll even text my husband and my kids if I'm out running errands, like, hey, I'm running to Publix in 20 minutes, like last call for you to add things to the
We
list.
share the Publix app.
Oh, okay. So that might be a way to do it. I'll have to look into that. Thank you. But it really, it saves money, it prevents waste, and it prevents those impulse purchases if you're just shopping based upon your list versus the end cap that can sometimes grab you, right? So I really like sharing that list with my husband and my kids. I think it makes it easier. So who does all of their shopping for the week at one store versus multiple? Multiple? Are most of you multiple or one? One? It depends on my week and my time. So convenience would obviously lead towards going to the same place and buying all of it at, Publix or wherever. If possible, some of the like dried items, you can get more lower pricing. So like your, laundry detergent, stuff like that. You're probably going to get a better price based upon what you're shopping for at Walmart or Target or Sam's Club or Costco. And then, for produce, looking at Publix, Winn-Dixie or Aldi. And then you have specialty stores like Whole Foods and Detweiler's and Fresh Market. I particularly find sometimes at Whole Foods their produce is cheaper, especially when you're looking at the organic stuff. So if you're buying organic regularly, you kind of gotta be aware of what those prices are because they do change for produce so frequently. Does anyone go to the farmers market in Sarasota or out in Lakewood Ranch? Sometimes? Yeah. Do you use Sarasota or Lakewood Ranch?
Sarasota and also near Gulfgate, there's one,
Oh.
Philippi Creek
Okay,
has one on Wednesday,
okay.
but I don't frequent it, but it's, near the,
Yeah. Anybody else go to a farmer's market? Venice?
Sarasota, I haven't been for a while.
Yeah.
They always had a really good organic farm.
Yes.
I always loved celebrating produce.
I agree. Sarasota's is bigger. I haven't been super recently. I usually go to the Lakewood Ranch one. That one doesn't start till 10 a.m. though. Sometimes it can be really hot at 10 a.m. But the Sarasota one starts at 7. I don't know about Venice. Yeah. So it's nicer in the summer months when it starts earlier. But, research really shows that, if you take the time to go to farmers markets, you're going to save money and then you're buying local. So you know that it's only traveled X amount of miles versus across the country. Because that's when you're losing nutrients and, the product isn't going to stay ripe as long if it's already been hauled across the country or wherever. So I highly recommend farmers markets. And again, just keeping a list, with you. And if you shop at multiple places, are you okay? Okay. If you shop at multiple places, being able to, keep that list and have an idea if there's stuff that you buy on a regular basis, what that pricing is so you can compare. Yeah.
So, in a lot of these fruits that you see that are from Chile or, out of the country somewhere, how nutritious are they? Because like you said, when did they harvest them in order to get them here, from Italy or from, wherever?
Well, and who really knows unless we're testing that? So I don't really have an answer for you. I have read data where, some of the broccoli doesn't have hardly any vitamin C versus broccoli should at right picking have lots of vitamin C. I think it really just depends on where it's come from. If you can eat your produce, as soon as you get it from the store and not wait a week. But that's why I highly recommend, and I think it might be the next slide. Is it? No, it's not. But we'll talk about it. Buying frozen fruits and vegetables can be great. Yes.
Talk about buying frozen vegetables as opposed to fresh.
Yes.
I like frozen broccoli and I like fresh.
So actually, I'll go.
It's actually better for you because it's flash frozen.
Yes. It's on one of my other slides. I'd have to go forward too far, but that's part of like stretching your dollar that I recommend. Honestly, frozen fruits and vegetables are probably more nutritious than anything you're going to buy in the produce section. Now, if you're going to a local farmer's market, my guess is those things might, especially if it's organic, and even more so if it's on a regenerative farm, which are very hard to find locally, especially. But those are going to have a lot of nutrients. But using anything that's frozen, like you said, it's frozen at peak ripeness, so it's going to have the most amount of nutrients in it. And that also goes for seafood. So we live in Florida, so if you're getting something that's locally caught, definitely go for the fresh, not previously frozen, but for everything else, get it frozen. Because the salmon that says it's, never been frozen, it has been out a very long time to come from Alaska, right? Whereas if you get the stuff that's frozen, it's flash frozen, just like they do with the fruits and vegetables, and you're going to get more nutrients. It's going to be more fresh. So that is one of my recommendations for sure. And how do you cook it frozen? Do you steam it? I've been able to kind of replicate doing roasting like frozen cauliflower, carrots, and broccoli. Roasting them in the oven with a little olive oil. You have to cook them a little bit longer, but they taste very similar to fresh. And then obviously for frozen fruits like your berries, they're going to be cheaper frozen, and then you can put that on top of your oatmeal or whatever you're eating. You may have to wait like 2 or 3 minutes to let it thaw a little, so it doesn't make your teeth so cold. But that's what I do with my overnight oats in the morning. So this is what I recommend in terms of trying to stretch your dollar a little more. EWG, it stands for the Economic Working Group. So they come out with a new list every year. This is still the 2024 list. I keep checking. I have not seen the 2025 list yet, but they do it every year based upon testing random produce from various different places and which ones have the highest and lowest amount of pesticides and chemicals on them. So the dirty dozen are inevitably the ones that have the most pesticides on them, and the clean 15 are the ones that have the least amount. So the dirty dozen, if your budget does allow, I would recommend buying organic. And then with the clean 15, whether your budget allows or not, you really don't need to worry about it as much because there's not as many pesticides in it. So the EWG.org is where you can probably find the new 2025 list whenever they come out with it. But this is another way just to save some money by focusing your funds on where you really need it to be in terms of reducing chemical exposure and reducing toxin exposure.
I
Yeah.
use the vegetable spray on the fruit
Mhm.
every morning. Forgot the name of it. There's several brands out there, but I always, any fruit, I wash it down, soak it and rinse it.
Yeah, and there's like pros and cons to doing that because they've showed kind of like we've talked in here about our microbiome and our GI tract, so like the good bacteria that lives in our system. Soil actually has its own microbiome, just these like little tiny microorganisms that are good for you. And then so they've looked at studies, and it's just like there's pros and cons where if you don't wash them, you're getting the good bacteria from the soil, but that's only if it's from a really great farm that's not spraying on it. You know what I mean? So it's like there's pros and cons to washing. Sometimes we can overwash, but then if you're getting conventional, fruits and vegetables, conventional being non-organic, then you're going to want to wash that stuff off. So it's kind of pros and cons to doing it. I'm sorry, were you going to say something or no? No, sorry. Oh, I saw a hand somewhere.
Oh, right here. Can you talk a little bit about, more inflammatory oils, because canola oil and those oils versus an olive oil and a, avocado?
So if you think about it this way, avocados and olives, they're like mushy, right? Like if you squeeze them, they're like juicy. Think about it. You don't have to squeeze them hard. You can do it with your own hand. Whereas when you think about, they're considered seed oils. So like sunflower seeds, safflower seeds, all these different seed oils, there has to be a lot of pressure in order to get any type of juice out of there. And so it's very, I don't know how to, it's ultra processed when they do that, and they have to use a lot of heat to extract this oil. And then sometimes in the processing, it doesn't smell very good and it's not a very pretty color. So then they end up processing it further. And sometimes they even bleach the oils. If you kind of look on YouTube or Google how sunflower oil is made, it's just highly processed and very inflammatory. And so then when we consume it, then it's inflammatory to our cells, right? So your olive oil and your avocado oil, because they're just juicier fruits and vegetables, they don't have to do a lot of processing. It just easily comes out. And so they're way more beneficial to our system, and they're anti-inflammatory. Olive oil, you're mainly for salads. You could probably cook up to around 400 degrees. 400 is usually the cutoff for me. Anything over 400 degrees, I use avocado oil. And again, this is if budget permits, because those oils can be more expensive. So you just kind of have to do it based upon that.
Like an olive oil, is it important that it's a single source?
From what I've read, yes. It's
Because there's
multiple sources.
really more.
So you want it cold pressed because that's the least abrasive. And if you can get it from one source, again, it's kind of like wine. It's like they just get more expensive the more, like when you kind of go down this rabbit hole, if you will. And sometimes going to the bigger stores like a Costco, I actually don't have a membership because I don't have a kitchen pantry, so I have no storage space. But when I've gone with my family, I have picked up some olive oil and avocado oil because their pricing is very good there. But single source, from what I understand from my research, is better because then it's from one place versus it's like getting grapes from all these different places for, a wine or something.
Yeah, Costco has a single source, olive oils and stuff. I was tricked, when I think about it, I used to always buy, organic, oils, but they were highly.
Processed.
So
Yeah.
you're thinking everything is, because I tend to get a lot of organic, but some things,
Yeah.
it's really marketing.
Yes.
What do you think of canola oil?
Yeah, like we were just talking about it, it's still very highly processed. I wonder if I can find the link. When I was in grad school for nutrition, my professor had us watch, it was like a 3 or a 5 minute YouTube video on how canola oil is made. So I would Google it and see if you can find the video. It's kind of disturbing as to how it's made, and it's on everything. So
I order my olive oil from a woman who has fields in California.
no way.
And I've always been told, wait, if you buy it at a store, make sure it has a date on
Yeah,
it.
right.
So I don't know if that helps.
And the other thing that I've read that's important, and this can be tricky with, as we age and being able to hold on to things, but you want it in glass if you can. If that's like a hazard for you, then get plastic. We don't want you dropping it and hurting yourself. And also something that's more of most of them come in it now, but like a green or an opaque glass that's not see-through, because it's the lighting, even just in your house, even if it's not by a window, it can oxidize from that, create damage. Yes.
I have not figured out coconut oil yet.
Coconut oil is great, very healthy for you. Again, I think you want it cold pressed, if I'm remembering correctly. The only thing you have to be careful with coconut oil is that if you have heart disease or have really high cholesterol that's not managed, it is high in saturated fat. So you just want to take that into account for your, that's why nutrition can be very personalized. Because like what could be like coconut oil could be great for one person, but not for another. So it's not bad for you, but if you've got heart disease and cholesterol issues, just make sure to be aware of that and take that into your daily account. So unit price on food, I find that really helpful, especially if you're new to trying to be a little more budgeting with food. You can like take a little note in your phone. Unit price can be really helpful because every different store will have different sizes of different things. So that can be helpful if you're trying to be a little more mindful with your budget. So drinking more water, I highly recommend this. It's free. So it's the cheapest beverage to drink. If it's possible, I would recommend getting a filter at home. A lot of the filters that are available, like I think a Brita comes to mind. It's just carbon filter. Not going to hurt you by any means, maybe a little bit of waste of money. I really like the one that I use at home. It's called Clearly Filtered. So it filters out, the reason I got it initially was because it was one of the ones that filters out fluoride, which is now going to be removed from our drinking water anyways, but this was years ago. But they have a bunch of different options. You can get a picture, I use an inline, it's one that goes in between the wall and the refrigerator. It's just an extra line that goes in between those two little, whatever you call them, the water line from your fridge. They have really expensive ones that you can have put into your home, but you can, if you could filter your water on any level, that's going to remove toxins that are in the water. Going back to, we were talking about the economic working group for the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. If you go to egyptwg.org, you can put in your zip code, which we all kind of have similar ones, so we're probably going to have similar waters. It'll actually tell you for your zip code the water contaminants, what's contaminated in your water. So I would consider that. If you can drink out of glass or stainless steel, that would be ideal. Save money. Try not to buy a lot of plastic, bunch of water bottles to drink out of plastic water bottles. Just use plain water that you're filtering. And if you get really bored with that, you can enhance it with like cucumbers or lemons or limes or anything. I actually also got, I think it's called a Soda Stream, the thing that puts bubbles in it. So I can have carbonated water and then add lemons and limes to change it up. I don't add the soda flavoring or the coloring stuff, obviously, but because that adds sugar. But just, drinking water is your main hydration source can be a great way to save money too. And then we talked about this because the lady back there brought it up, but frozen fruits and vegetables, when possible, great way to stretch your dollar, probably have more nutrients than what's fresh in the grocery store. Check out your local farmer's market. And then another option is buying meat, especially if you're looking at buying organic or anything like that, when it's on sale and freezing it, because there's nothing wrong with doing that. You want to be a little careful when you're unfreezing it and then the process of doing that. Do a lot of you guys buy meat when it's on sale and then freeze it? I find I did a course in grad school on, like proper management of food and like how to make sure you're not growing bacteria on it and stuff. So for defrosting food, the easiest way I find is I get a big bowl, I fill it with water, and I put the meat in it, and I put it in my fridge because I've left it on my counter and I've forgotten it all day long, and then I have to throw it away. But if you do that, it really defrosts the meat pretty quickly. Like if I do that in the morning, I can eat that chicken by the evening. So,
It's wrapped up,
mm-hmm.
isn't it?
Oh yeah.
You don't just put the.
Oh, no. I should have, yes, like the frozen chicken package, I just put it in the water. And then because you're really not supposed to, I used to do this, but you're not supposed to leave it on the counter. It's like, I know, and some of us will do that to defrost it quickly. That's supposed to breed bacteria. So we want to avoid getting any type of, sickness from that. So putting it in the water, you could leave the water on the counter, The water still needs to stay really cold, but I have forgotten it multiple times, where now I always just keep it in the fridge because it still defrosts it pretty quickly. But that's a great option. And then keeping things around that are easy to make quick meals out of, like frozen, or sorry, not frozen, like pouches of tuna, or they even have like flaked salmon to make like salmon salad, just like you would tuna salad. Having those are great sources to have around for saving money as well. So what other questions do you guys have? More on water? Okay.
I had zero water.
Okay.
It's zero, it takes out everything. It's like,
Is it reverse osmosis?
it's, no, it's you buy a filter, it's expensive.
Yeah.
And the filter, and I was doing that. I ran out of, I need to buy another one,
Cartridges,
but
yeah.
anyway, then I bought water at Publix, like you say. Now, spring water has a lot of good nutrients, I like that. We're taking everything out.
So if you have something that takes everything out, now my understanding is those filters are called reverse osmosis, and those are fine. You have to add minerals back in then, which is why I didn't want to get one, because it seemed counterintuitive. So if you have reverse osmosis, you do have to buy mineral drops to put the minerals back in, because those are minerals that, again, are important for cellular health and functioning, because you actually can be dehydrated but be consuming lots of water. If you're consuming water that has no nutrients in it, minerals, then it's not really hydrating your cells properly.
Spring water.
Yes. So I had a doctor years ago tell me that ideally, and what she did, and it's like she took a lot of extensive steps, is that she would get spring water delivered in big glass jugs, because ideally you wouldn't have it in plastic. But it's really, depends on how far you want to take it, because if you really think about where our water comes from, it's going through pipes and tubes. It's hard to exactly filter out the plastic, which is why it's good to use a filter. So, but if you're using one that's taking everything away, you want to make sure that you're putting minerals back in. Yeah.
Yeah, because I get confused when we sell drinking water, purified water, spring water, that's at Publix. So
Yeah.
there's 3.
Yeah.
I think the purified must be a reverse osmosis, I don't know.
I
I don't know what the difference is.
I actually don't know what purified is, if I'm honest on the definition.
I asked them once, they said, no.
That's funny. Yeah, I'm not.
For what they sell it for, it's way too cheap to have reverse osmosis process.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
We have, when we moved to Florida, I thought it was the worst water I'd ever tasted.
Oh, that's so funny.
And I love water.
Yeah.
So our first big expense was to put a softener throughout the house.
Mm-hmm.
And we have like this 40-pound bag of salt that we have to put in every few months
Okay.
in the tub in the garage. And it makes your hair, your shower, your windows in the shower don't get
Oh, because it's not hard.
right.
That's interesting.
And it tastes good.
Well, you're probably used to tasting more mineralized water from wherever you came from before. That would be my guess, because it's not salty, but kind of. Yeah, that's probably why. I would assume, because water that has been completely stripped of minerals tastes funny. And then water that has fake minerals, not fake, but added minerals to it also tastes funny. But water can have many different tastes. Any other questions? Well, thank you guys for having me. If you're looking for more support, I do offer one-on-one personalized consultations, and feel free to reach out or email anytime.
This is all what we've been talking about.
Okay.
I'm just curious, what about sweets? Like I have a sweet tooth.
Yes, as my understanding, especially from talking to Susan, is that is not a side effect, but that is part of Parkinson's disease, is having a sweet tooth, because you can taste sweet, right? So what's your question on it?
My question is,
good for you, it's sweet.
Fruit is really good for you and sweet. I mean, but dark chocolate would be a great anti-inflammatory. I mean,
How about dried fruit, like figs,
um,
in moderation?
in moderation, just because dried fruits tend to spike blood sugar. So if you were doing it as like you're gonna have granola and berries and stuff with your oatmeal, or if you, yeah, I wouldn't just sit down and eat a bunch of dried food. But you know, something that could, it's called a, what do they call it? It's like a healthy Snickers. You can take a date, fill it with, and I've done it. My mom was against it, and then she tasted it. It's delicious. But if you take a date, you take out the pit, you put peanut butter in the middle, and then you dip it in chocolate, and you have to like harden it in the fridge or the freezer for a little bit. That tastes like it's like a healthy Snickers. I mean, and that could be a way to get the, and you're actually getting, you know, fiber from the date, you're getting some fat from the peanut butter, antioxidants from the dark chocolate. That could be a good fix.
Stuff the dates with that walnut.
Yeah,
That's what I think that's delicious.
something like that.
One is the other part of the that's something really talking about. Like there's Italian food, there's French food. What's considered American food?
Oh, I think the picture I showed at the beginning.
Fried food, hamburgers, hot dogs.
It depends on where you live in the country, but it's just your typical, like what you would eat on Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah, right.
With Parkinson's and constipation, eating Mediterranean or cooking, I've adapted a lot of dishes that Mike likes
Yeah,
with olive oil to make it towards Mediterranean. Our potatoes, our rice, all, I put olive oil in it, potatoes, and I like the cabbage, I said, really improved the cabbage. I put olive oil, I have a mist bottle, so I fill it with fresh olive oil, and I spray the inside of the bread before I make a grilled cheese or even peanut butter and jelly. It's a baking light oil.
yeah,
Baking olive oil light. So everything that Mike eats has olive oil in it.
yeah.
So instead of going 4 or 5 days without bowel movement, he has a bowel movement every day or at least every other day. You know, once in a while, he'll
Yeah.
take 1 day in a week usually. But the Mediterranean
Yeah.
diet is highly
Well-
recommended, but I can't cook that all the time, so I
No, yeah.
modernize or add it to our.
And you can do it through fruits, vegetables, but also don't forget that legumes, like all beans, are really high in fiber. So that would add it. Berries are a really good fiber source. So the more like fruits and vegetables you can get into, olive oil is great. And if that's working, I would keep doing it. Having a daily bowel movement should be a goal for a baby up to a 100-year-old.
We have fruit every morning.
So,
kiwi,
yeah.
blackberry, blueberry, raspberry.
Yeah. Yes,
I'm a chocoholic.
me too.
I love dark chocolate.
My name is Ashley, and I.
I find that if I go and I get an organic cacao powder and use that, like I use it in the morning in my coffee.
Yeah.
It kind of takes away that.
Craving. That is a good suggestion. I was here a couple months ago and made like a banana bread, and it was a triple chocolate banana bread, and it had cacao instead of flour in it. Yeah.
Have you heard about the mushroom coffee?
Yeah, I don't like coffee, but my husband drinks it.
He does, yeah, a friend of mine suggested.
He likes it's called Everyday Dose is the brand that he likes. Yeah. But they seem to be good if you can get them organic, and then I think that one is, I don't know, he did a bunch of research on it and he seems to really like it. So he was trying to get rid of the caffeine for blood pressure management, and it was too much. So in the mornings. Well, thank you guys for having, oh, I'm sorry.
Get one slide back up that has the list of the,
Oh, yeah.
and then take a picture of it.
Yeah. Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate all of you and your engagement.